You know, I think she's got the hots for you. Too bad you're dead.
Okay, so dead men don't have much of a social life. But there are some advantages we have over the living.
Name one.
Well, there's no income tax, there's no junk mail, and no rent. And there's another advantage. Criminals get sloppy if they think you're dead. They stop looking over their shoulder, and they stop being careful, and they start to forget. But you don't. You don't forget. And you don't forgive.
Sounds like you got something planned.
Oh, I do. Well, what do you think?
Maybe you ought to lie down again.
My best friend in the whole world died in my arms 2 days ago, and I do not intend to wait until Monday to find his killer.
Ellen, to be exact.
Denny Colt. Crime, especially murder, is never a laughing matter.
You want to question Simon J. Teasdale? That's not the kind of man you casually drag into a murder investigation. Oh, no. Colt.
Come on. We gotta get you inside.
To the memory of Denny Colt, whose spirit is with us still.
Denny Colt, alive.
As usual, the mysterious spirit vanished as quickly as it arrived.
I mean, this guy is running around catching criminals, and your father is the police commissioner. You've met the spirit, haven't you?
So I hate these kinds of events. They're so boring, so predictable.
Why can't the mask come off?
Run for your life!
Could I get your autograph?
You're this incredible, fabulous crime fighter.
Well, nobody's perfect. Well, I've got a long day of crime fighting tomorrow. I'll get your coat.
I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. I have before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind.
I hope the United States will keep out of this war. I believe that it will.
Criminologist and private detective Denny Colt informs Commissioner Dolan he's going out to arrest a criminal by the name of Dr. Cobra and collect a reward on him. When Colt confronts Cobra, a gun goes off. These strange chemicals created by Cobra pour onto Colt, and Dr. Cobra manages to escape in all the confusion. Dolan arrives on the scene to find Colt's lifeless body. The coroner pronounces Colt dead. But that's not the end of the story. The chemicals put Colt in some kind of suspended animation, and he wakes up several hours later and escapes his grave. Back then, I guess they didn't wait to bury people. What, he's dead? Put him in the ground. The next night, Dolan receives a visit from a shadowy figure, telling him that he will bring Dr. Cobra to him in 3 hours, and to have the reward money ready for him. When Dolan asks who he is, the mystery man simply replies, "Call me the Spirit." But we know who it really is, right? Dr. Cobra is caught and the Spirit reveals his true identity to Dolan. But rather than go back to the land of the living, Denny Colt decides to stay dead, thinking being the Spirit will give him a unique edge and allow him to go after criminals that are outside the police's reach. He'll survive by collecting the reward money and living out of Wildwood Cemetery. Soon the criminals of Central City are being locked up, and it's all thanks to the Spirit. The Spirit was born in 1940 by Will Eisner. The Spirit would be the lead feature in an unprecedented format, a color comic book that was inserted in Sunday newspapers. At its height, the Spirit insert had a combined circulation of 5 million readers each Sunday, quintupling the circulation of America's best-selling monthly comic book. The Spirit would not simply be about a costumed character catching bad guys. Under Eisner's creative control, he would use the comic format to craft and explore different genres of stories with his character. His writing, artwork, and format would be something unique, and make Eisner's Spirit stand apart from many of his contemporary crime fighters. Eisner retired the Spirit in 1952. Though he retired the character that year, it has rarely been out of print since. The 7- and 8-page stories he wrote and drew each week are regarded as classics of the comic form, and his work would eventually have him be regarded as one of the most influential comic book artists of all time. 47 years after his creation, Eisner's Spirit makes the leap to live action in the form of a failed TV pilot. Flash Gordon himself, Sam J.Jones, returns to this superhero series, this time in the role of Denny Colt. The rest of the cast are people who, you may not know their names, but might recognize their faces, even if you can't pinpoint where you had seen them. Other than the great Philip Baker Hall as Colt's partner, who gets killed in the beginning, he dies really quickly, I don't really know any of the cast names. Like these two kids. I know they popped up all over the place in the mid-'80s. I know that kid was in Tremors.
Oh, Whitney Houston, huh?
By the way, this pilot was written by Stephen E. DeSouza, who would go on to write Die Hard the following year. Go figure. Following a lead, Colt leaves his jurisdiction in East Armfit, Oregon, to Central City to question Simon J. Teasdale about his partner's murder. Teasdale is a bigwig curator of the big city museum. He's arrogant, pompous, and looks quite guilty. Or is he? Colt is shot down by a henchman. He's taken care of by a young troublemaker, Yubi, and he miraculously survives. That's when he gets the bright idea about donning a mask and going about cleaning up the streets and getting to the bottom of what Teasdale is up to. Love interest Ellen is left in the dark, so that would probably set up a lot of humor and suspense as to when she would find out who the Spirit is in future episodes.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
Why can't the mask come off?
Oh, well,
Because criminals fear the unknown. Because a man with no name is a man without restraints.
right.
You know what that sounds like? The Lone Ranger.
I know. Maybe this mask was a mistake.
There's really not too much to talk about with the story. It's adequate, I suppose. For a pilot, it establishes all the characters rather nicely. Colt, Ellen, Commissioner Dolan. Cab driver Ebony from the comics is dumped, and Yubi is here to help the Spirit out. I imagine he was going to be the Spirit's ongoing kid sidekick, who kids watching would think is so cool and wish they could be him. One more Eisner character from the comics shows up, Pagel, a sexy femme fatale who looks like she would have been returning in future episodes. She's sort of like Catwoman to the Spirit's Batman. They would have flirted, she probably would have tied him up and kissed him, made offers for him to join her in her evil schemes, be jealous of Ellen, all that sort of stuff. The production value of the show looks pretty cheap. It looks like a lot of filming went on the back lot. It's the cemetery sets that I really dig, just for how corny it looks. It's not very convincing. I mean, it's obviously a set. Throw in some dry ice, spooky music, flashes of lightning. It's like one of those sets old horror actors in costumes would introduce a movie from on television. Or even, I could picture a hardcore Halloween fan decorating their front lawn and it'd end up looking like this. I can't really fault this pilot for not looking like the most sophisticated production, though. In a way, it gives it an innocent charm. Once the spirit starts doing some crime fighting, is when things start to pick up. We get a montage of him kicking butt with a groovy tune going on. Criminals breaking windows and grabbing jewels. Real old school technique of newspaper headlines spinning around. I love this headline. You have to root for a superhero who saves a bunch of nuns. There's also some old school nail-biting scenes that are pulled straight out of cliffhanger serials. The spirit being lowered into a vat of acid, the spirit on some torture rack, Ellen about to be impaled with a bunch of spikes. It's not the most suspenseful, dramatic, edge-of-your-seat kind of stuff, but it is still kind of fun.
No, not that one. Try the red one.
A show filled with this kind of stuff back in 1987, kids probably would have eaten it up. Jones is pretty good in this. He looks the part of a guy who can go toe-to-toe with crooks every night, and he gets to play some of the campy humor in this, which isn't so overdone that it comes off as trying too hard. It kind of works. Nana Visitor, years before she would show up on Deep Space Nine, is also pretty decent. She's cute and seems to be having a lot of fun playing the silly comedy, falling all over the spirit, being so smitten with him. These two as the leads probably would have been one of the reasons why people would have tuned into the series. If it had become a series. There's some silly stuff going on. Jones getting his clothes all ripped apart. Look at this. It looks like, something Bill Bixby would have worn on the Hulk show. I guess they wanted to show off his physique. The spirit's mausoleum at the end is so ridiculous. It will naturally be his headquarters in the show, and they have it all decorated. It's just so outlandish that you can't even criticize it. If you're going to be bothered that now he has a jukebox in this place, then you're just not in the right frame of mind to be watching this. It's like you can't let it bother you that this little blue mask is his disguise, and no one can recognize him when he's wearing it. You just have to accept it and roll with it. It's like people being bothered that Lois Lane doesn't recognize Clark Kent as Superman. If you're not willing to swallow that suspension of disbelief appetizer, then don't stick around for the meal. It's a pretty bright, lighthearted tone to the spirit. It almost starts to skim the outer circle of the campy Batman TV show. You won't find a lot of dark and gritty here, which is fine. Watching it now, it kind of plays as a fun little superhero show that kids would have enjoyed back in the day. I could picture it being one of those cheesy action shows kids would have watched in the 1980s. Maybe it wouldn't have worked as a network show, but I could definitely see it playing in syndication. Something you'd watch before Star Trek The Next Generation came on. But this Spirit TV show was never to be. But there's really nothing wrong with it. Eisner himself apparently said he hated it, and it's not the darker, more noirish presentation that a lot of fans would have liked. But honestly, I prefer this Spirit adaptation way over the 2008 movie. I'm sure someone can come around and do a better Spirit movie. But as of now, this TV pilot is the best live-action Spirit project that's been done. So far.
Alan, you were reaching for my mask.
Spirit. I'm appalled. How could you think something like that of me? That I would violate your trust like that?